We're Retail Manager Solutions. We manage around about 40% of the UK high street. You'll find us doing every single aspect of branch control, branch communication, workforce management, and right the way down to scheduling and even down to producing the printed point of sale material in the store. As a software business, we had to move away from the old big capital, big capex situation, because if you missed a budget cycle, you could be waiting 24 months sometimes before you'd have an opportunity to put your software in. Yeah? And that's where the cloud has really helped us, because now we can be talking to customers where they don't have to have the big capex, they can do it straight away onto their operational expenditure, and they can get the benefits from our software within days rather than having to wait until the next budget cycle. So we can now concentrate with our customers on making sure that operationally they execute absolutely flawlessly across their estate, and not be messing around with technologies and servers and all of the other paraphernalia that preclude us from doing a good job. We'd actually built our own data center to take the problem of running the application away from our customers so that we could own it and manage it and do the whole thing. And in that time, from building it, before we'd even put the first server in and operational, we discovered Amazon Web Services, and suddenly we had this realization that everything that they got was bigger and better than we could possibly afford. So, you know, our generators would only do a certain amount of work, and we only had a certain amount of fuel that we could store here. Their generators, you know, unlimited. Yeah? Our air conditioning could only cope with a certain amount of power and a certain amount of temperature variation. We don't have to worry about that. In fact, the whole concept of running a data center, we suddenly realized was just absolutely foolish, because every single thing that we wanted to do, they had already done, and if they'd done it 1,000 times better than we could possibly have dreamt or afforded to have been able to do. So the move to Microsoft was very commercially clear-cut and straightforward. I mean, it's quite obvious who would be more attractive to our clients is, you know, one of the world's biggest technology providers who wrote the software in the first place, yeah, rather than going to somebody who might be perceived as a retailer. So Microsoft made a lot of sense from a commercial point of view, but then when we start to actually look at the difference between running it as a platform as opposed to an infrastructure play, it actually takes us even further along the journey of not having to think about the technology, worry about the technology, but just get on with what our software does best.
There were 3 of us that went to a lab at Microsoft for 3 days to port our application to Azure. This was relatively straightforward. Although it's easier to deploy to Amazon, as it's a familiar infrastructure, it's more difficult to manage and update afterwards. With Azure, there's more initial effort to get the best out of Azure features, but from then on it's easier to manage and maintain.
And of course, the benefits to our customers, yeah, are absolutely outstanding with Azure, because we can now provide them a provisioned service without them having to have the cost of servers, infrastructure, electricity, cooling, upgrades, management, outages, and all of those problems all have gone away. We can provide it infinitely cheaper than they could do that themselves, and we can give them a better, safer, and more reliable service. We can even back it up across different continents. I think the most telling thing is last year, all of our new business came from the cloud. Yes, everything, which I'm almost certain wouldn't have happened with the old, expensive CapEx model. And in these tough economic times, particularly for retailers, it's enabled us to do an awful lot more than we ever would have been able to do without it. And therefore, we can take our world-class software and improve the businesses of retailers around the world in ways that we've never ever been able to do before.